Hi, this is Alkin, and welcome back to my channel. Well, looks like another victory for the Trump administration. Federal judge decided not to block the Trump administration from using IRS data to go after illegal aliens. What can I tell you? Anyway, comes from CNN by Marshall Cohen. So, yes, I'm using CNN. Says, quote, federal judge won't block Trump's plan to use IRS data to track down undocumented migrants, or illegal aliens, actually. This is by Marshall Cohen. Okay. So a federal judge won't block a controversial Trump administration initiative, share highly sensitive taxpayers' information with federal immigration authorities in hopes of tracking down undocumented immigrants and quickly deport them out of the country. Ooh, yes, it's making headlines now. District Judge Dabney Freilich on Monday rejected arguments from several immigrant rights groups that claim that the data sharing agreement between the IRS and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement violates taxpayers' confidential laws. No, they don't. What do you think that we're going to do with it? Charge our credit cards up to the gazoo at taxpayers' expense? No. The decision is a victory for President Donald Trump and his immigration agenda. Trump administration officials argue that the greater cooperation between the IRS and ICE will protect Americans by kicking out potential dangerous immigrants who came to the country illegally. CNN has reached out for comments to the IRS and the Department of Homeland Security. Freilich was appointed by Trump in 2017 during the president's first term. The immigration rights groups that filed the case could now appeal her ruling to the D.C. Circuit's Court of Appeals. The data sharing deal allows DHS, which oversees ICE, to ask the IRS to confirm home addresses of suspected undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens who are suspected of defying deportation orders. The deal was pushed through in early April over the objections of several top career IRS officials who refused to sign it because of legal concerns. Well, some of those folks resigned, so they're not there to fight it now. Those concerns stem from the fact that federal law strictly limits when the IRS can share taxpayer information with our agency. The IRS can share data to aid criminal investigations, but the tax agency can't share data solely to facilitate deportations, which are a civil matter. Yeah, but if these people are committing criminal acts, it is a criminal act, so not a civil matter. The judge concluded in her ruling Monday that the Trump administration crafted the data sharing deal carefully enough to, at least on its face, to comply with the law. The Justice Department has argued the request for private data will only target people under criminal investigation for illegal defined deportation orders. The immigrant groups have argued this is a thin veil pretext to get around the law. Well, you broke the law more than one way, you're screwed. Request and receiving information for civil enforcement purposes would constitute a considerable injury, but none of these organizations have established that such an injury is imminent, Freilich wrote, adding that the moratorium only allows sharing information for criminal investigations. On this limited record, the court cannot assume that DHS intend to use the shared information to facilitate civil rather than criminal proceedings. They've been trying to be throwing roadblocks after roadblocks against Trump with all these judges, and looks like this roadblock is about to get cleared away. An attorney for the group that sued the Trump administration, Alan Morrison, said he was disappointed with the ruling but considered an appeal and additional litigation. In other words, he want to waste more taxpayers' money over nonsense. The judge made it clear that DHS and IRS must comply strictly with the limit exception on which they rely. Morris said in a statement, so far DHS has not made that formal request for taxpayer data, and plaintiffs will keep a close watch to be sure that the defendants carry out their promise to follow the law and not use the exemption for unlawful purposes. If you're trying to deport somebody who's violating the law, other than coming into the country, you can't get rid of them. For decades, undocumented immigrants has been encouraged to register with the IRS and pay federal taxes they owe, and have been assert their private identity information will remain private. The Trump administration attempted to eliminate this firewall has spurred panic in the immigrant communities and had led some undocumented migrants to pull back from filing their federal taxes this year. Oops. CNN recently reported that Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, it is building a master database with data from the IRS, the Social Security Administration, and other agencies to streamline immigration enforcement. A spokesman for the Treasury Department, which oversees the IRS, insisted late last month that taxpayer data is not being inappropriately shared across government agencies. At a court hearing last month, Fryrich scrutinized the data sharing deal and questioned whether the Trump administration concocted a pretext so the argument would be past legal muster. But she also presented the immigrant right group that filed the case, oppressed, challenging them to show evidence that the Trump administration intended to violate taxpayer privacy laws. No. It's just a lot of mumbo jumbo. At its core, this case presents a narrow legal issue. Does the moratorium understanding between IRS and DHS violate the IRS code? It does not. Fryrich wrote Monday in a ruling. The plain language of the federal tax code mandate the disclosure under specific circumstances and precondition outlined in the IRS-ICE agreement. So, on the footnote says this story has been updated with additional details. So, in other words, this is another loss for the for these groups that's trying to throw roadblock at Trump. Looks like this one self-exploded. Oops. So sorry. They said they're going to try to appeal it, but meanwhile, while they're trying to appeal, they're going to continue this process. So, what can I tell you? If you're here legally and you don't want to be caught, you have that nice app where you can self-deport yourself, and they pay for your plane ticket, and they'll give you $1,000 to leave the country. Why not take advantage of it? And you get a better chance of getting back into the country if you do that. But of course, all these illegal alien groups are causing all this haywire and commotions, and this is why you're having problems in Worcester, Massachusetts, and Newark's ICE detention center with these groups, either a politician or maybe these Soros fund groups, NGOs, whatever, causing havoc all over the country. You didn't win. Too bad. This is Al Gansing. So long for now. Don't forget your stop.